You know, there are moments in life, and I don't mean just events or appointments, but true moments, crystalline interruptions in the usual flow of time one. We find ourselves somewhere we didn't plan to be, and yet somehow it feels more like home than anywhere we've ever lived. That was the sensation I had when I first saw the house, or rather, when it saw me. I was walking, not hiking, not marching, just walking through a forest I didn't even know had a name. It wasn't meant to be anything. I hadn't brought a backpack or a compass or any of the symbolic accessories of a modern-day escape. I just had this impulse one morning to walk away from town and to keep walking and to allow myself the foolish luxury of not needing to know what I was walking toward. There was a trail, but not really a trail, just a soft depression in the earth, as though other feet had wandered here before, but had the decency not to carve their passage too aggressively. Birds were singing, though I could never quite locate where the sound was coming from. Every time I turned to look, the song would flit to another place, and then the house appeared. Not suddenly, no, that would be too abrupt for a place like this. It emerged gradually, as if I had been looking at it the entire time but hadn't yet learned how to see it. It stood at the clearing's edge with a kind of dignity, a modest, watchful thing, with shuttered windows like lidded eyes. It didn't beckon, not exactly, but it allowed, it permitted. You see, I don't believe the house was haunted. That word is too crude, too theatrical. It was more like inhabited, not by something separate from the house, but by the house itself. It had a presence, like when you enter a chapel or an old theater, even when it's empty, it feels full. And here's the part I can't explain. I wasn't surprised to see it. There was no moment of wonder or curiosity or suspicion, just recognition. The way you recognize a place you've never been but feel you must have dreamed about as a child. It felt inevitable. The door opened with a sigh. Not a creak, but a sigh, as though the house had been holding its breath. Inside, the light was soft, like it was always late afternoon. Dust motes moved slowly through the air, not falling but suspended, as if time had thickened somehow. There was a fire burning, though I hadn't seen smoke. A small table set for one. A chair that looked like it had been expecting to be sat in. Not luxurious, but right. Right in the way an old glove is right, or a melody you haven't heard since childhood. I sat, and that, as odd as it sounds, was the beginning of everything, or maybe the return to something. It felt less like discovering, and more like remembering. But remembering what? It was only when night fell that I realized how deeply still the world had become. Not silent, but still, as though the forest itself had drawn closer. Listening, I don't remember falling asleep, but I dreamed. Of course I dreamed. That's what the house wanted. I think it needed someone to dream for it, someone to carry a part of the forest back into waking. There's a difference between a dream and a memory, but it's not as large as we like to believe. A dream you wake from, a memory wakes with you. In the dream, I wasn't in the house anymore. I was in the forest, but it was older, wilder. Not just trees, but tree, if you understand what I mean. As if the forest wasn't a place, but a being, and I was walking not through it, but through her. Yes, she felt feminine, not soft necessarily, but watching, appraising, like a mother who had not yet decided if she loved you. There were voices in the trees, but not voices in the way we speak, more like pulses of sensation, feelings that arrived whole. They didn't use language, but I understood them all the same. Asterisk, they were telling me things, showing me things. One of them came in the form of a question, but not a question I could answer. Something like, "Have you remembered yet what you left here?" I didn't know how to reply, but the forest didn't seem surprised. It never expected answers, only attention. The way a flame never asks to be fed, but always flickers with hunger. With the sound of wind that wasn't there. The fire had gone out. Not a single ember remained, and yet the room wasn't cold. Morning light grey and diffused spilled through the windows, though I couldn't recall any sunrise. On the table was something that hadn't been there the night before. A stone, smooth and warm to the touch, with a spiral etched on one side. I turned it over in my hand, expecting, I don't know, an inscription of sorts, a feeling, but it was just a stone. And not just a stone. I kept it in my pocket. The house didn't ask me to stay, but it didn't let me leave either. Not really. The door was open, yes. I could have walked away, and yet I found myself sitting again in the chair, listening to what, you may ask, nothing but deeply. The next day, I found a door in the house I hadn't seen before. It wasn't hidden, not exactly, but it hadn't existed until I was ready to notice it. I opened it without hesitation. The stairs led down, not into a basement, but into earth. Walls of packed soil, roots exposed like veins. The air was warm, close, but not unpleasant. At the bottom was a room lit by no flame. In its center, a pool of still water, black as oil. On the far side of the pool stood the man with no shadow, and for the first time I saw his face. It was my own, not as I was, but as I might have been had I made different choices. Softer, sadder, older, but somehow less tired. He spoke without moving his mouth. His voice was the voice of the wind in leaves, the hush before thunder. You left something here. Long ago, a promise, a name. You may take it back or leave it forever, but you must choose. I looked into the water and saw a memory. A child, barefoot, pressing a stone into the forest floor, whispering a vow, not to forget, to return, to become someone who could carry the forest without breaking. I remembered everything, and I wept not from sorrow, but from the relief of no longer lying to myself. The man with no shadow faded, not vanished, faded like mist. I stepped into the water, and when I woke, I was still in the chair by the fire. Morning light, this time real, golden, fell across the floor. The stones were gone. The house was quiet, not watching any more, just resting, and I knew I could leave, or stay, or return one day. The forest would remember me, and now I would remember it.